He's not like, hey, yo, girl, what's up? Yo, that ass is thick. Let me get your number.
Hello and welcome to Happily Never Equal. I'm your host, Cecilia.
And I'm Randolph.
Each week we come at you with questions from our listeners and Reddit.com all about family, relationships, marriage.
And a little bit of parenting.
We like to answer these questions with our own brand of advice. My husband, Randolph, is very pragmatic and straightforward and likes to really hit on those hard truths for people.
And my wife tries to go back and sugarcoat all of this for you just to sort of make it go down a little bit easier.
I try.
Yeah. And whether or not you're successful, that's up to the listeners to decide.
I guess so.
With all that said, you want to get into it?
Yeah, let's get into some questions this week.
What do we got?
We have co-sleeping,
Okay.
perceptions, insecurities, and scheduling.
Wow. Okay.
That's a lot this week.
Sure.
All
Seems
right.
like it.
So how are you this week, babe?
I'm still in that holding pattern, you know. We've been dealing with our work schedules and stuff, and we're just kind of making it work and getting by.
Survival mode.
Yeah. It's that sort of crunch time that some people go through. Yeah.
Yeah, we've had it for like 2 weeks.
2
now.
weeks. That's not too bad. Some people go through it for months, and, you know, we may have to do that. We just don't know, but we'll get through it either way.
Yeah, I felt horrible today because I felt like we had to break our daughter's heart.
Break her heart.
Yeah.
Well, we had made some tentative plans for her birthday, and things changed, and we had to change the plans a little bit.
Yeah, because of work schedules.
Sure. But you know what? It'll be okay, right? Everybody in this family right now is having to sort of go with the flow a little bit
Right.
and bend and make changes, you know. And
Definitely.
yeah.
So I have a little bit of time off before I have to go to work, and I don't know what I want to do. I want to take a bath and have a drink and relax.
Yeah.
But I need to go to the store later today, and I want to watch Stranger Things with you.
So many things to do, so little time.
And I need to sleep at some point.
Oh yeah, that too, sleeping, right?
So I just don't know what to do, and I kind of hate that. I feel kind of pulled in a bunch of different directions.
Yeah. I like how you put sleep way at the end. It's like, and that, I guess.
And that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but right now I'm just happy to be here recording with you, babe.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep. Are you ready to get into some questions?
Let's do it. Let's get them.
Husband, a 29-year-old male, wants son, a 3-year-old male, to sleep in his own room.
Oof.
And I, a 26-year-old female, don't.
Okay.
Backstory. I was a single mom until I met my now husband when my son was just about to turn a year old. I lived alone with my son before we met, and he slept with me every single night.
Oh, jeez.
Me and my husband dated for a year, got engaged for about a year, and got married 2 months ago. Congratulations on getting married. That's awesome. Marriage is always fun.
Yeah, especially for the guy who's got to deal with single mom and her son. And
Nice.
this bedroom nonsense.
We also bought a house together and moved in a month or so ago. Before that, I lived in my apartment with my son, and then my husband, fiance at the time, moved into my apartment until we got our house. The apartment was only 1 bedroom, and my little boy slept in my bed. So this isn't something that just happened. I've always shared a bed with my baby, especially being a single mom and us living alone for 2 years. His son.
Yeah.
Now that we are in the new house and my son has his own room, he wants him to sleep in his bed. He complains that it's hard to have sex
True.
and makes sleeping difficult. He's much harder on my son than I am and isn't as compassionate towards him as me. That's normal. It's normal for dads to be a little harder, don't you think?
Yeah, in order to establish a little bit more discipline, moms tend to sort of coddle and baby their sons a little bit more than they ought to, in my opinion. And of course, the mother always believes that, in her opinion, you couldn't possibly coddle your son enough, could you, Mom? Right? That's impossible. Oh, gosh.
Back to our question.
Yes.
I don't know if that's because it isn't his son or because he doesn't have kids of his own yet, or if that's just how he is. But he's definitely harder on him as far as discipline and rules go than me. I think that's pretty normal.
Now, let me tell you something. Stepdads in general, in my experience, are softer on their stepsons than their actual sons. So if you feel like this man's being hard on on your son.
Wait till you guys have your own
Yeah,
child.
I would expect him to be even harder on his biological son. You know what? I could be wrong here. It could be that my dad was so hard on me that I perceived my stepdads to just be universally softer.
Yeah.
It could be that. But I can tell you this, that as hard as my dad was, it was what I needed. And as hard as those stepdads were, it wasn't enough. I walked all over them eventually as I got older, and I learned how to finagle my way through that.
Right.
I knew that I could leverage my mom prioritizing me over them against them. I figured that out at a young age. So that's a hard thing for stepdads to have to manage and deal with is disciplining a son when they know that, or they suspect at least, and it may or may not be true for you. I don't know. I just know from my mom's perspective, she always prioritized her kids over her husband's, especially when they weren't their biological fathers.
Right. But I think that this is just more about a difference between fathers and mothers. I don't really think the fact that he's a step parent has a whole lot to do with it.
That's what I'm saying is that I think he's treating the child fairly, at least
right.
in terms of like discipline and all of that. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get back to the problem.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing, but I'm having an extremely hard time making him sleep in his room. My side. I've slept with my son since day one in the hospital. Obviously, both me and him are very used to it. And if it weren't for my husband, I would have zero problem continuing letting him sleep with us until he is a little older and can understand a little better.
Always a little older, and then he's 16.
That I'm just in the next room if he needs me.
Yeah.
I also hate the cry it out method and refuse to let my 3-year-old cry himself to sleep for any reason. That sucks. I personally hate when I cry myself to sleep.
This is not the same things though. You don't cry yourself to sleep because you didn't get the thing you wanted. Right? You're crying yourself to sleep because you have a valid reason to be upset about something.
Right.
Your son does not have a valid reason to be upset. Right? It's like, I want to be in bed with my mommy. That's a reason to be. No, it's not. You want something. A child wants something and they learn to cry about it to get it. And that you train them to do that. And you've been training your son to do that. He cries, you give him what he wants. Right? You try to put him in his bed. He gets upset, he cries, and then you come and get him and you let him sleep in your bed.
The past several weeks, I let my little boy pick out his sheets and comforter, and he naps in his bed pretty much every day. For the past week, my husband has been making me make him sleep in his room at night, and I'm miserable.
Yeah. And that's another problem with stepdads, right? Because they still feel like they need to go through the mother in order to affect real discipline. And I think that communicates the wrong message to the child, which is that the stepdad's authority is ultimately still held in check by the mother.
Right.
That he can always go around the stepdad and go to the mother directly.
Right.
That's a problem.
I don't sleep at all, and I'm exhausted all day. I usually lay down with my son at bedtime and turn on his TV, watch a show, turn it off, and he goes to sleep. I then go get into our bed, but don't sleep because I'm listening for him to wake up. I toss and turn and just am not comfortable or able to relax. He usually wakes up about 3 a.m. crying for me, and while my husband wants me to just leave him alone, I refuse to lay in bed and listen to my kid cry for his mom. So half the time I end up laying in his bed until morning. Ugh. His bed is super small and uncomfortable, and I don't sleep. I'm only getting a couple of hours at night, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
There's no compromising with my husband on this. He says my son is no longer allowed in our bed because he doesn't get to cuddle with his wife, doesn't get to have sex, and doesn't like getting kicked in the face. Well, who likes getting kicked in the face?
Yeah.
Which we cuddle every night on the couch after my son goes to sleep. He works shift work, so more than half the month he is home during the day, during nap time, and we could easily have sex daily if we want it. He just only wants it at night, when I'm tired and ready to go to bed. And while I admit my son can be a wild sleeper, it's not horrible, and we have a king-size bed. And getting a foot to the face is few and far between.
Hey, he only gets a foot in the face every once in a while, so what's the problem?
I'm upset because my husband is happily getting his way, getting to cuddle at night and have sex when he likes to have sex, but I'm becoming sleep deprived and extremely stressed over the whole situation. He will not budge on allowing my son to sleep in our bed, and if I bring him in our bed, he's going to sleep on the couch.
Yeah.
I hate feeling torn between my kid and my husband, and it's making me miserable. I don't know what to do or how to bring this up without causing an argument over it.
Yeah, because that's ultimately what's happening here. You are having to choose one over the other because your husband's not finding any sort of comfort in this, right? This is a problem for your husband. It's not just the short-term problems. There are significant long-term problems that come, behavioral issues and discipline issues that come up as your child continues to develop and get his way and sleep in your bed with you, and this dynamic continues this way. It's not just about the foot in the face and the not having sex with you. Those are just like the excuses and the short-term addresses that your husband's trying to make to communicate to you that this is an issue now. I don't know if he's aware of the future issues that come up with this on a like cognitive level or just an instinctive level, but there are definitely long-term issues here that you need to consider and that will become a problem. What do you got?
Well, I don't know if you remember, but we actually went through this.
Oh, I'm sure we did.
We did. When our son was little, when he was about, not from day one. I tried to make him sleep in his bassinet when he was a baby.
Sure.
But it was just easier to get him up and put him in bed with me, and he slept better. And we had a little double-sized bed back then.
Yeah.
So when he got to be bigger, there was no room. There was no room for you in our bed. And lots of times you would sleep on the couch.
Sure.
Like for almost 2 years. And our son and I slept in our bed. And I understand. I know how little they are and how cute and how you want to hold on to those memories. And you put all your hopes and dreams in them while they're asleep on you, you know. And it's nice to feel like that little bitty guy depends on you so much. I know all those feelings. I'm a mom too. But you have to ask yourself, is this really what's best for my child? Because before you know it, he's going to be 35 and living in your basement and not wanting to leave his mommy because his mommy does everything for him.
Yeah, because he still needs his mommy.
Right, exactly. And while that's going to make you feel great, what's that going to do for him? Nothing.
Well, and I can tell you this, it won't feel so great when you look at this guy and you don't see a little baby anymore. You see a grown-ass man.
Right.
And having a grown-ass man, the feeling of having a grown-ass man depend on you, it's not quite the same as little hairless baby.
Right. I think that you need to let go a little bit. I think that if you approach this with a better attitude about this is what we're going to do, we're going to sleep in our own bed now. This is how it's going to be. You know, mommy still loves you and I'm just down the hall. He's 3. He's going to understand.
Yeah, all of your short-term complaints about why you don't want to do this, like you have a hard time sleeping and he cries and you can't stand. These are all short-term things. You're ignoring the long-term damage that's happening in favor of your short-term satisfaction and well-being. This is something that you need to address and suffer through in the short term in order to ensure a long-term success. And when I say short term, I mean, a month or 2 of hard, no's. You have to sleep in your bed. You're going to have to get used to this.
Your son is going to take on a better attitude about this, and it's going to be easier for him if you have a better attitude about it. The harder you make it on you, the harder he's going to fight you on it. If you have a good attitude, it's contagious. And he's going to have a good attitude about it. If you make it okay, he's going to make it okay.
Maybe not for a 3-year-old. Maybe as he gets older. But either way, you've still got to resolve that it's a permanent thing and there's no crying your way out of it. You've enabled him to get what he wants by crying. Okay? Once you cut that out and he learns, again, just like he learned to cry, he'll learn that crying doesn't help anymore. He'll learn something else. He'll figure out a different way to communicate.
Right. I really think that it's very important for you to get into the mindset that you are doing this for the greater good, for the greater good of your son and the greater good of your family. Because if you continue to think I'm doing this because my husband is making me, then you're going to start harboring resentment towards your husband. for making you do this thing.
Yeah. I wouldn't even do it
And you
like
don't need
that.
to fall into that trap at all.
Right. You have to understand that he's got not just his own well-being and, in thought, in consideration. He's not just taking his own well-being into consideration, but he's also taking yours in the long term, right?
Right.
Because that's what's really at stake here. I mean, that's the biggest, there's a huge problem in the future where you continue this pattern of behavior and enablement of your
Right.
son.
I had a friend who slept in between her parents from the time she was little bitty until she was probably 16 or 17. And then even as a married woman, when she got sick or was feeling upset about something, she would come to her parents' house with her husband in tow, and her husband would sleep on the couch and she would sleep in her parents' bed. And she was like in her 20s.
Yeah.
And it was creepy. And you don't want to become, the creepy people like that, You're doing...
Maybe she does. Maybe she feels good about that. I don't know.
So you're doing this, and I know that as parents, we have to do things that are hard. We have to listen to our kids cry sometimes.
That's what it really comes down to.
You're going to have a situation come up that you're not going to be able to fix, your son is going to be hurt or upset, and there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it.
Yeah, this is like your kid, wanting candy for dinner, right? Your kid wants candy for dinner. You can't have candy for dinner. But he wants candy for dinner, so why don't you give him candy for dinner? That's what he wants, and you can't stand to see him cry and not get what he wants, right? No. Because you know better. You recognize the long-term problems with candy for dinner, and instead you say, no, I'm putting my foot down. You're not getting candy for dinner. You have to have, this. You have to have this meal, because I know better, because you have, a better grasp of long-term consequences here. And that's exactly what's going on right now. There are long-term consequences in play that obviously your son's not aware of when he's in bed crying.
I do want to say to you that one of the best pieces of advice I can give you was actually given to me this week. Instead of looking at what you're missing with those nights with your son in your bed with you, you need to look back fondly on what you had and be thankful for what you get in the future. I'm sure that at 3, there's still going to be times where he has a nightmare and you can welcome him, into your bed for those occasional things, or maybe times when he's sick or things like that. I'm not saying look forward to when he's sick or when he has a nightmare, but I'm just saying that, that time is over now and you need to accept that. And I think that's what's going to be easier for your entire family.
I mean, that time should be over now.
Right.
But ultimately...
But that doesn't, just because it's over, it doesn't mean that it's taken anything away from the time that you did have.
Yeah,
that time still happened.
Yeah, it doesn't diminish the past and your memories.
Right. You just have a new normal now, and the new normal is sleeping in bed with your husband and not your son.
Right. Yeah. Stop hating on your husband so much too. He's not... You make him sound like he's some sex-crazy, child-hating dude. Like, there's more in play than just that, right?
I think so. And even if your husband doesn't realize that that's what's more in play, I think that he is... operating more on his instincts.
Yes.
And that's great. That's why you married him. Because he has good instincts.
Yeah, his instinct is telling him this kid in the bed is a problem.
Right.
And we can't have the kid in the bed. And he's left sort of trying to puzzle out why. And the best he can come up with is like, I can't
cuddle.
Yeah, I can't cuddle. I can't have sex. I get foot in the face. I guess that's it. I guess that's why we have a problem. But there's more to it than that, for sure.
Right. I think that the excuses that he's giving you are kind of the sugar-coated excuses.
Yeah.
I don't think they're real excuses, because I think those might be a little too hard for you to hear right now.
Well, there you go. From him. Yeah, and you hear it from me. That's what I'm here for.
All right. Are you ready for the next question?
I'm ready for the next question.
This one's for you to read, baby.
Ooh. Is she the lowest common denominator, or is everybody projecting? Well, Guy, probably it's just her. So my wife and I got into an argument today. And just so the listeners know, this person is tagged as being in a 10-year relationship. So they've been together for a while. She stormed past me with attitude, dismissing my offer to get her lunch. Mind you, after she ignored my text while I was on my way home, asking her if I could pick some food up for her. When I asked her if she saw my text, her response was, "Why didn't you just call?" When she came back into the room, I tried to hand her some cash I owed her. Technically, it was a refund from taking something back to the store. She didn't want to do it. I offered. She dismissed it, saying she didn't need it. thinking I was offering her money. She only took it when I reminded her where it really came from. I asked why all the attitude, and she went off on me. She went into this tirade about all these people at work who think she has an attitude when she doesn't, and projecting their interpretations of her actions onto her. And she's sick and tired of dealing with it, and can't stand that she has to come home to me projecting too. So the whole world's crazy and she's not. That's what she's saying. I told her before that her actions can be off-putting and can hurt my feelings. Mainly signs of contempt, scoffing, eye-rolling, walking past me, and deliberately looking away, etc. Sometimes she apologizes and says she doesn't mean to offend. Sometimes she's defensive and tells me to stop projecting my interpretation of her actions onto her. My mom has even confided to my wife's mom that my wife has been short with her. My wife's mom told my mom that's just how she is sometimes. I've seen my wife get close to the line of disrespect with her mother, and her mother will respond with, "Hey, don't forget who the mother is here," or something to that extent. My question's this: is it really me and the rest of the world with the problem, or is it her? Well, Guy,
if you can't spot the crazy person on the bus, you're it.
I guess it would depend on who you ask. We have this thing called consensus reality, or subjective reality, which is, everybody has their own opinion on whether or not it's hot or cold outside, right? And things like that, right? These are subjective judgments. So your wife is subjectively saying, no, it's not me, and everybody else is subjectively saying, yes, it is. So your answer is, it depends on who you ask. What do you got?
I feel like the wife just doesn't know how to read between the lines. Like, she doesn't know how to say things between the lines or read what other people are saying between the lines.
Yeah, that's just called poor communication.
Right. And I think that it's her attitude. It seems like she has a bad attitude. But it seems like everyone around her indulges it as well.
Yeah, yeah, they let her get away with it. They don't call her out on it. And I'll give you some practical advice here, Guy. The best way you can fix this or correct it slowly over time is to call out the specific actions. And you mentioned you're aware of the specific actions, right? But it will benefit you in the moment when you're trying to address this problem with her to point out the specific actions, right? Or the specific tone that she uses that tells you she's got an attitude. And then this puts her on the spot. She has to sort of acknowledge that she just did that action or used that tone. And then that will sort of help her realize what it is she's doing that's projecting this image onto everybody. And you can put it to her that way too. That may be an easier way for her to sort of accept the fact that other people live in their own realities outside of hers. I mean, that's a really hard thing for some women to come to terms with.
Right.
That, there is a universe outside of themselves and they're not necessarily the center of it.
You don't even have to be rude about calling her out on things.
No.
When Randolph and I were first married, I had this little thing that I thought was very cute and endearing. But I had Cecilia time, which means that whatever time you said that you were going to do something or you were going to be somewhere, I usually showed up like 5 or 10 minutes late just because I had my own stuff going on. And you should account for that time. Everybody else should just account that I'm going to be 5 minutes late. So when you say 5 o'clock, that really means like 5:15.
Yeah.
And Randolph wouldn't stand for that.
No.
If he said that he was going to pick me up at 5 o'clock and I was not ready at 5 o'clock, he would leave.
Yeah. I don't play that game.
He broke me of that very quickly.
Right. Well, because it's easier.
Right, and it was never even a conversation that we had. He never came out and said, I want you to be on time. You need to be on time. I just kind of learned it. It kind of became,
I never
normal.
Yeah, I never acknowledged it or validated it either because she would talk about Cecilia time to me. She would tell me all about Cecilia time, right? And I would just...
in hopes to get you on my page.
Sure. And I would scoff and I would laugh and I would go, okay, whatever. And then I would just go about my business, right? And then when the time came to falling in line with Cecilia time, it would just never even occur to me or enter my mind. Cecilia time never actually existed in my mind.
And eventually it didn't exist in mine, except as a happy little memory.
Sure. Yeah. If you were going to continue to be a part of my world, you were going to have to accept the fact that Cecilia time didn't exist in my world.
Right.
Yeah. So, that's about what you can do, Guy, is just, help her along with that. A practical piece of advice is when she's doing these things, you can say, hey, I don't know if you know this or not, right? But when you do this thing, it gives people the impression that you have an attitude. Now you may, and you say this to her, you may not think you have an attitude, but when you do this thing that you just did, that tells other people that you do have an attitude. Right. So unless that's your intention, you probably shouldn't do that. So you're sort of putting it on, you're helping her by showing her that, that it's other people that are doing this thing. Like they're the ones that are misperceiving. And in order to sort of hack her way around their misperception, she needs to like cheat the system and project something different, right? So you're sort of giving her like this tool, this insider tip on how to navigate other people around. And you're giving it to her in such a way that she feels like she's getting a trick or a tool, like you said.
Right. Yeah. And you can also, when she does these things or when she accuses you of projecting her interpretation or her actions or whatever, ask her, well, what did you mean? Sure. What did you mean by your eye roll? Yeah. Or what did you mean by walking past me and not saying anything? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can do that. And then you can figure out what she means by that and help her, kind of fine tune that tool you've given her.
If that's how you want to do it, Guy. But honestly, between you and me, I don't roll this way at all. If my wife has an attitude and she doesn't, if she's acting in a way that to me says she has an attitude, and she doesn't want to discuss it with me, I don't even acknowledge it. I don't validate it. I don't humor it. I just go about my business like nothing's wrong. All right. Until an action is taken towards me that is disrespectful or offensive or something like that, right? In which case I call out that specific action. Eye rolling and things like that. That's all her nonsense, right? Like if she's upset about something but she doesn't want to talk to me about it, I'm not going to chase that down. I'm not going to fight her to get her to talk to me. She either wants to talk to me or she doesn't, okay? If it was me and your wife, this would never even come up, right? Like I would never even bring this up or address it. I would just completely ignore it because what's there to acknowledge? Right. What is she actually doing? Huffing and puffing, yelling. Okay. So what is that? How does that affect you? Why does that affect you? Right. Yeah. Comments?
Mm-hmm. Bet Ona says one more phrase to add to the list is if it smells like poo everywhere you go, chances are the poo is on your shoes. Maybe she could get some individual counseling because it's exhausting going through life so angry.
Yeah, but then that counselor, man, is always projecting. Right?
Always. It's
yeah,
always
those counselors, man, they're just looking to make a buck.
Sometimes.
Yeah, all times, right? Unless they're doing it for free. Next question?
Next question.
All right.
Being on a different sleep schedule puts a strain on my relationship with my fiancé.
True that.
Before dating, I was on a normal 8 to 5 p.m. shift, normal sleep schedule, in bed by 11 p.m. After meeting my fiancé, then boyfriend, he introduced me to the night owl sleep schedule.
Exciting.
We stayed on that schedule for several years, and I even changed my schedule around to work overnight and a 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. shift since we were getting serious. But I started feeling lonely because it's hard to make friends when you work overnight or don't get up until 3 p.m. to go to work. And the people that do stay up that late weren't the type of people I really wanted to hang out with. So I started working 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. instead of overnight and trying to wake up by 10 a.m. to start a semi-early day. This also meant going to bed just a few hours after getting off work. I feel exhausted and just absolutely drained lately because I'm starting to dislike the evening shift. I don't ever get to hang out with friends or family because I don't want to feel rushed in the morning before work, and I don't have the weekend off when everyone else seems to. Lately, I feel like I'm in a daze and only have 2 days off to relax. Well, be thankful you have those 2 days.
Wow, you get 2 whole days? What's that like?
I don't know.
Awesome. Brag much. Jeez, rub it in.
We're just kidding because we don't. The situation we're in right now, I have no days off.
Yeah.
And Randolph only has Sundays.
Right, and I'm still doing other stuff, side projects.
Because my after-work relaxation is cut short so I can wake up early versus relaxing after work for at least 5 or 6 hours before bed, I temporarily went back to the morning shift and tried to make it work with my fiance, but it put too much strain on our relationship, and we were both miserable. He doesn't go to sleep until 4 or 5 a.m., and I had to be in bed by 11 p.m. I'm also a light sleeper, and any little noise or light will wake me up. Not to mention that I've gotten used to not sleeping alone. I hear that.
How about that?
I don't want to ask my fiance to switch his sleep schedule around, nor would it be fair of me to ask him to, but I just can't take this mid-shift and miss the morning schedule so I can have a social life with my friends and family. If I switch back to the morning shift, my fiance and I both agreed that it puts too much stress on us. We never get to hang out with each other, and it isn't fair to make one of us go to bed early or stay up late. I'm clueless as what to do here. I don't want to break it off with him, obviously, and would prefer not to go back to a later shift to get back on his sleep schedule. Any advice or tips for what I should do?
That's it. You've painted yourself in a decision corner. Like, you've left yourself no options, right?
Right.
So you have to pick. You've already mapped out all your options. Like, you've gone over it. Okay. You have to choose. We can't choose for you. You have to decide what's more important to you.
Right. I think that there comes a time in every relationship where you guys start to have to make sacrifices for each other.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're kind of wanting to have it all, the social life, your fiance, and the perfect work schedule.
There's not enough hours in the day, lady. Do the math. Write it down on paper. There's only 24 hours in the day. You have to sleep for 8. You work for 8. There's 8 left over. Divide it up.
You know, if your friends and your family really want to spend time with you, then maybe they'll make it work. Or maybe you could not have to get up every single day at that time. I work overnights. I just started working overnights, and there's still days where I have to get up and go do the shopping or take one of the kids to a doctor's appointment or something like that.
You have a 16-hour window outside of your work schedule where you need to get your 8 hours of sleep, but that's a sliding window. You can move those 8 hours around however it is best works for you, okay? And you've been talking about that. But also, another thing to consider, this is what I do, is they don't have to be consecutive hours, okay? I split my hours. I get about 5 hours in the afternoon, and I get about 3 hours at night. I get my 8 hours, but I'm taking like a 3-hour nap while my wife is at work after I come home from work. And then when she gets home later on, we stay up for a little while and talk and visit, and then I get my other 5 hours. So you can split your 8 hours up too if that's more convenient for you.
And it's hard to get, and there's going to be some adjustments to that, and there's going to be some, some trial and error about when you can nap or when you can get it. But you got to pick something and stick with it, because it sounds like you're kind of bouncing around a whole lot of different shifts and things, and you're not giving it enough time to work itself out.
Yeah, that's
to normalize.
To normalize, exactly. Eventually you will get used to something. You just have to embrace the fact that that's your new sort of normal instead of looking back longingly on your previous normal. Right. Because again, your hours, you only have so many, and if you're choosing to allocate them differently than you once were, then it's impossible to go back to what you once had.
Right, and I would utilize those 2 days off. I would love to have 2 days off. Schedule your family and friends on those days, and the rest of the time, it's work. Yeah. And pick your priority, work, your fiance, and do those. Right. And go with that during the work week.
Yeah, your 8 hours of sleep don't necessarily have to be the same that they are during the week on your 2 days off. You can move them around a little bit, and you might be a little bit sleepy by pushing them back, but what you gain is, the niceties of what you're talking about missing here, like visiting with your family and friends and things like that. So
right, and I know that it's hard. I haven't really got to visit with many of my friends or family in the last couple of weeks because of our new schedule. Yeah, and it's been rather difficult. Right. But you got to kind of find those moments when you can get them.
And there are practical solutions to what you're talking about with your being a light sleeper and things like that.
Right.
We black out our bedroom, so there's no light coming in even in the middle of the day. We wear headphones and stuff like that to block out noise. I used to wear earplugs sometimes when, during the summer and spring, when people outside our house do the lawn care, I wear earplugs and stuff while I'm sleeping because they do that during the afternoon when I'm sleeping. So,
yeah, just be open-minded to any suggestions that, or anything that you can think of to try to normalize onto a better schedule with your fiance.
Yeah. Suck it up. That's what it comes down to.
I wasn't going to say it quite like that.
That's what it comes down to. Yeah.
All right.
Pick something and stick to it.
Next question.
Okay. Me, 23-year-old male, my girlfriend, 21-year-old female of 1 year, needs constant affection. And we often argue about it. Am I in the wrong? Yeah, if you're arguing, you are in the wrong. We talked about consensus reality earlier in the episode. There's two people in this reality here, basically. And, on her end, you're absolutely wrong. And on your end, you're not. But there's two people here. So, 50% of the time you're wrong here. This is my first girlfriend. Oof, 23 first girlfriend. Gosh.
Be nice.
She always wants affection, especially in the form of physical, hugs, hand-holding, cuddles, and verbal, compliments, etc. I feel like her desire is insatiable, and there's just never enough for her. Oh, man, I could talk about this for hours. You know that?
We don't have hours.
I know, but this subject is so, there's a lot to cover. She will get upset over small things. For example, the other day she wore a nice outfit, and at the end of the day, she told me she was upset because I didn't compliment her or notice her. Then she proceeded to accuse me of noticing every other woman but her. I did notice her, but I just didn't say anything, and I don't see why I should force myself to verbalize a compliment. She should already know I find her attractive, otherwise I would not be with her. But she complains I look at and admire other girls on Facebook and Instagram, but never her. Well, I already deleted my Instagram anyway because of her jealousy, as I was following models on there at the time. She'll get upset if she feels like I'm being distant or not as interactive. To her, even if we spend a whole day out together, it means almost nothing to her unless I was being physically affectionate with her throughout the day, like holding hands or whatever. After we hang out, before I go home, she insists we must lay down together and cuddle for a while. If we don't, she complains of feeling empty or wrong, like she needs that physical affection to feel complete. She will also always ask me to do things like stroke her hair and other physical affectionate things. Every day, she complains I never do it except when she asks. She always needs me to be showing her physical or verbal affection throughout the whole day. And if I don't, she thinks I must not love her, or she questions my fidelity, or says things like, I bet you would compliment any other woman. Don't get me wrong, I love her. But this is constant, seemingly insatiable need for affection is getting overwhelming and annoying. I'm somewhat affectionate at times, but she needs too much. And personally, that is not my love language. I feel like being with her is enough to show I love and care for her. I do things for her, like buy her food or give her a lift home from places. To me, these actions show my love for her. But to her, if I'm not constantly reassuring her, telling her I love her, that she's pretty, or giving her random kisses and whatnot, she thinks I don't care about her or have no interest in her. And she says things like, if I was more attractive, you'd do this and this. She seems to think that I don't do these things because I don't find her attractive or love her enough. The truth is simply that I show my love in other ways. What should I do? Is there a way to help her? Or are we just not compatible? Or do you think I should be showing more affection? And then there's an edit here. He says, well, if the problem is more that she is insecure, as many have stated, then if we could resolve her problems, a relationship might still be possible, right? I mean, I feel a little bad about this. Yes, she's definitely insecure, but I can see why. She's had bad relationships, and not just with guys, but friends and family. I'm the only person she has. She doesn't have friends, and she says she has difficulty relating to anyone. Her parents are separated, and her living circumstances are constantly changing. Needless to say, her relationship with them is basically non-existent. She always told me she felt her parents didn't love her, didn't give her attention or affection, etc. So I understand where some of the insecurity comes from. If this is the case, isn't it something that can be helped rather than just break up and find someone else? like I said, I do love her, and I don't want to just throw it all away so fast. What do you got?
Well, I think that she may be very insecure, but the way to fix her insecurity is not to give in to all of these demands for the compliments and the affection. The way to instill security in her is to be a rock, is to be that unmovable force.
He doesn't know how to do that. He doesn't have the tools.
You know, just feeding her all of this affection and the compliments and all of that, that's just like throwing things into a bottomless pit.
That's letting the baby sleep with you in your bed.
Yeah, it's not good, and it's not helping. And you guys are going to continue down this spiral until it ends horribly.
No. Not horribly. What'll happen is she will acclimate to his attention, and she already is. That's why she demands more and more of it. He's giving her all of this love and affection and attention and da-da-da-da-da, and it's diluted, right?
I knew you were going to say that.
He has something that she values, right? And she asks for it, and he gives her infinity amounts.
It loses its meaning.
It doesn't mean anything anymore. He once gave it to her, and it was a very rare and special thing. It was like, ooh, this boy that I'm attracted to gave me his affection. Wow. That's really special.
It's like a drug. Nothing's going to beat that first time, that first experience.
You know, he gave me this very rare and special thing, and I've never had it from him before. Will I ever have it again? And then, so, you know, she asks you for it again, and you give it to her. And wow, I got it again. That's nice. And she asks you for it again, and you give it to her again. And again, and again, and again, and again. And now she's just got buckets of it. It's everywhere. It's just, she has as much as she wants. But she wants, more than she wants the affection.
Not only does she have it, but she got it by simply asking.
Right.
She didn't have to do anything to earn it. She didn't have to try for it.
That's lesson number 2. Okay,
we're still... I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Okay, so she's just completely, like, surrounded by this stuff, right? And it doesn't mean as much, but she still remembers how it used to make her feel. And so she's still asking for it, and it's not making her feel the same way. Why won't you make her feel the same way? It's on you. It's your fault. What are you doing? Why have you done this to her? Why won't you love her and make her feel the way you used to make her feel? What's wrong with her? Why can't she get that from you anymore? And this is the world she lives in, Guy. Okay, this is what you've done to her. You've given it so freely and in such abundance that it has no impact or effect on her anymore, and she still remembers the time that it did. And she now holds a sort of resentment towards you, not directly, not consciously, but emotionally, for your not making her feel the way she once did. And what Cecilia talked about just a moment ago was a way for you to sort of manage that, to put a tap on that, because right now it's just free flowing and she's drowning in it and she's surrounded with it, and it means nothing to her emotionally. It has no emotional impact on her. So the question then is, how do you give it value again? How do you regulate the value of that feeling? Of the compliment? How do you make the compliment mean something again? How do you make the I love you means? You restrict it. You take it back. You don't give it out freely anymore. And one of the best ways to make it mean something is to make her feel like she's earning it. Like she's actually having to work for that. And this sets up a very win-win sort of relationship between the two of you, right? Where she's suddenly much more attentive to what you're interested in, what you want, your quote, love language, because all of a sudden now she's feeling what she once did before. It's all of a sudden it's back now. Okay. The problem is the sort of like speed bump that you're bound to hit, that the relationship may or may not survive, is when you go to regulate that feeling, the affection, the relationship may not survive. Okay. Because she has to be willing to accept the fact that it's no longer free-flowing anymore, that there is a cap, and she has to earn it now. And she's not going to like that. She's really not going to like that. And the relationship may fall apart, and you have to accept that. and you have to be willing to let that happen and walk away. But
to give you hope, it can happen.
Sure.
Randolph and I went through this.
No.
Well, not this bad.
No, I never gave you this.
Well, we said I love you.
Oh, with I love yous.
With I love
sure.
yous. We said it all the time. Whenever we were leaving, whenever we were going to bed, just all the time. And it began to mean not as much.
Which it didn't have a big impact on, it didn't have a negative impact on a relationship because there was still affection and love elsewhere that was regulated. But it was just in the saying I love you where it had sort of lost value. And I recognized that.
Right.
And so that was one thing that I did. And I let you know that was going to happen. I was going to start not saying I love you as much as I used to.
Right.
But it was for our benefit.
Right. And now I can't describe the feeling that I get when Randolph tells me. I mean, it almost brings me to tears.
Right.
It makes me so happy. And I love it. And I wouldn't have that, if we still said it all the time to each other. And it means so much more now. And it's so special. And I think that you can get to this point with your girlfriend if you kind of restrict some of this.
Right. But you have to be willing to stick to your guns and resolve and be willing to accept that the relationship could fall apart as a result of it. And if it does, take it as a lesson learned for your next girlfriend. Right. That you don't want to repeat this and make the same mistake. Now, there's also a trap on the other side, which is that you completely shut off that valve and you don't give any affection. And so there's nothing of value. There's nothing to be valued from her. And in that case, you become an unfeeling, insensitive robot. Right. Right. And in situations like that, the relationship's also going to wither and die. It's like, imagine you're watering a plant. Okay. If you don't give it any water, it dies. If you give it too much water, it dies. Don't overwater your relationship.
But I do think that she is a little insecure, and I do think that you need to, maybe sit down and talk with her and let her know that
this is what you plan on doing, this is why you plan on doing it.
Right, that it's for the greater good for you guys. It's going to better your relationship and make you guys closer, and that you do love her, and that's the reason that you're doing this. You've really put a lot of time and consideration into it and thought about it. And this is the thing that you need to do. You feel like you need to do. Yeah. Right. Okay. Any comments on this one? Poem D. Sang says, so someone who is also with a needy person, though not nearly as bad as her, I do have to call you out on something. I did notice her, but I just didn't say anything and don't see why I should force myself to verbalize a compliment. If you don't say it, it's not a compliment. It's just a thought. Fact is, a non-needy woman would eventually call you out on this. Do I need my partner to compliment me when I put effort into things? No. It is still nice to hear. Consider this advice for the future, and don't say it unless you actually mean it.
There you go.
Moving on, you two are incompatible. She needs more than what you are willing and able to give in terms of intimacy. If you can't or won't be flexible on this, you might as well break up.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm okay with them breaking up, but obviously for a different reason, right?
Right.
Because this is an opportunity for them to take it as a lesson learned. But, a better analogy would be like, this is, horses like to eat, right? They need food to eat. But if you just keep feeding them, they'll just keep eating. They'll eat themselves to death. A horse will eat itself to death. Okay? So does the horse know better? Does the horse know that it needs to keep eating until it dies? Is it suicidal? No, you just know better. You know a little bit more about feeding a horse. That's why the horse is coming to you, right? Because you have the feed. You're able to feed the horse. If the horse could feed itself, why would it come to you in the first place, right? If a woman could make herself happy all by herself, she'd live alone in a hovel and never talk to anybody, right? But women seek other people to make them happy. Yeah? Mm-hmm. They go outside of themselves. There's a guy, maybe that guy can make me happy, right? And then you proceed, the commenter proceeds to say, I know exactly what I need for you to make me happy, and this is exactly what you need to do. No, you think you do, because you felt happy before, and you were in the circumstances when you felt happy where this guy gave you a compliment. So therefore, and your logic is, I just need compliments. That's it, right? But this is like the horse saying, I need food. I like food. I eat food. And then all of a sudden the horse is dead and the relationship is dead and you're not feeling it anymore for some reason. And you just don't know why, right? But you know when you need it. No, you don't.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Next question. How do I deal with my insecurities when my boyfriend, 20-year-old male, glances at attractive women?
Be glad that he's with you.
Lately, it's been driving me nuts when my boyfriend and I are together and we pass a very attractive or scantily clad other woman.
Emphasize together. He's with you.
He will glance, being human, but makes conscious effort not to stare. We've discussed my insecurities about this before.
That jerk.
At the same time, he's really bad at hiding his facial expressions. And I can tell that he thinks that she's cute, hot, sexy, whatever. I can't help the intense pain of jealousy that bubbles up when this happens. What could I do to feel less insecure?
Realize that his standards for beauty, right, are there in front of you. Like you're looking at these women and you're seeing that that's what he judges to be attractive. But more important than that, he's also decided to be with you.
Right.
So what does that say about you? That says you won, right? You were the best choice for him, right?
Right.
That he chose you. He's not running after those girls. He's not hollering at them. He's not like, "Hey, yo, girl, what's up? Yo, that ass is thick. Let me get your number." Right? He's not doing all that. He's just looking.
He's just window shopping.
He's not even window shopping, right? He's walking by it because he's with you and he sees it. He wasn't out looking for a girl. He was out with you and he saw a girl and he looked at her and he goes, it's a good looking girl. And then he proceeded to not go holla at her and stay with you.
Right.
He did that. That's what he did. He continued to hold your hand and walk with you, or not hold your hand, but walk next to you, or however you guys transport each other, right? And he went home with you, or he went and did something with you, or he stayed with you, right? All of those things in the face of him acknowledging and appreciating those women.
Right.
Also, besides all of that, men just like to look at women. Like, we're very visual and we don't necessarily associate physical attraction with emotional attraction. Those are kind of two separate things for us. And physical attraction is very superficial for men. It's very surface level. It doesn't mean a whole lot. Emotional attraction is much more significant. It's what keeps a guy standing next to you in the face of being flirted with by a supermodel, right? Because he's not emotionally attached or attracted to the supermodel. He's emotionally attached and attracted to you.
It's what keeps the guy with you when you're middle-aged.
Yes.
And starting to feel old.
Yes, when you're both old and wrinkled and gray.
Right.
It's what keeps him there.
I have two ways of dealing with insecurities when I'm out. Well, first of all, I very rarely know when Randolph looks at other women.
I have a poker
he's very
face.
stealthy about it.
And I have a poker face.
Yes. But if he does happen to point it out, I do have two ways of dealing with that. Number one is I try to ask him what he likes about her. And then I take on that challenge to try to find my own brand of that. Whether it's the way that she wore her hair or some clothes that she had or something like that. And the other way is that I point them out with him. Hey, she's hot. What do you think about her? And make it be something that we can do together. That way I'm in on it and I don't feel as insecure.
Right. It's almost, it almost becomes a sort of game. It's like, I challenge you to see if you can spot the girls that I would find attractive.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
Yeah.
So those are two things that you could do to kind of help a little bit with your insecurities. But Randolph's right. The most important thing is that he chose you. Mm-hmm. He picked you. You're his girlfriend, not the attractive woman that just walked by you guys in the mall or down the street. You won.
Yeah.
All right. This one's for you to read.
Okay. Me, 26-year-old male, with my girlfriend, 29-year-old female of 6 months. She does not want to see my friends, but will plan events with her friends. Advice on discussing? I've been dating this woman for about 6 months, and we've never had any issues. This is the This is the perfect woman except, right?
Right.
This is that. Oh man, how many have we read of those? It's always that.
6 months is just coming out of the honeymoon stage.
6 months. That's not even honeymoon. Like you're probably not even farting around each other. He says, recently I've begun to notice that whenever I try to plan events with my friends, she has an excuse to get out of it, such as being sick or other things going on. At first I didn't question it because sometimes life is just busy. We're both working professionals and we can't see each other all the time. However, it is starting to feel a bit one-sided as I do things with her friends all the time with her, but she's only met my friends once and they've all been asking why I don't bring her around. I want to discuss this with her, but I'm not sure how I should address it. Sadly, I've been dwelling on this for a few days, so if I were to bring it up now, I might just rant and get emotional. How can I address this issue with her and express how this is bothering me?
I think that there's a lot of things in play here that we don't know. Number one, when you make plans with your friends, is she the only girl? Because that's uncomfortable for a girl.
Yeah, that's awkward.
To go and be, the only girl in a group of guys.
Sure.
It's different for guys. When one guy goes out with a whole group of girls, that can make him feel kind of special.
That's super fun time.
Right, exactly.
Unless they're all basic, and then it's boring.
So it depends on the dynamics of the friend group and who all is being included. I think that that's important.
Well, and even if there are other girls coming along, it could be that she just doesn't mesh well with those girls, or she's not comfortable around those girls. And what might help there, some practical advice from Randolph, is invite her to engage with those girls one-on-one.
Right.
To get together and hang out or chat by themselves separately so they can establish a sort of friendship or relationship there. And then she's looking forward to and more comfortable around the group settings after the individual one-on-one thing has been established.
But I think that to address your issue with her, you need to just talk to her. You need to just say, hey, girlfriend, I've noticed that you don't ever want to do anything with my friends.
Why are you dodging my homies, girl?
Yeah. And I was just wondering why. Does it make you uncomfortable? What's going on there? And then go from there. But be open to whatever it is she says. Don't be very dismissive because those are her feelings.
Ugh. Go ahead. I got my own advice. Go ahead.
And this is going to be, especially since you guys haven't had any issues yet, this is going to be kind of a little bit of the foundation of the communication between you guys for when you do have an issue. So try to hold all of that ranting and emotional stuff inside and listen to what she has to say. And then you guys try to work on a way to fix the problem together.
Okay. I don't even know why he's upset or bothered by this. This seems like such a nonsense thing to be upset by. She doesn't want to hang out with your friends. Okay, so?
Well, because he feels like it should be tit for tat.
Exactly, that's the problem.
He's hanging out with her friends,
okay.
So she should hang out with his friends.
No. You can't control what other people do, guy. If she doesn't want to hang out with your friends, she doesn't want to hang out with your friends. Why are you trying to force a square peg into a round hole? Okay? Just accept the fact that she doesn't want to.
Right.
If you don't want to hang out with her friends, why are you hanging out with them? And if you do, then why is it tit for tat? Why should she have to do something she doesn't want to do when you're doing something you do want to do? That's not tit for tat. So don't do that either. Or don't at least hold that expectation for her to do something that she doesn't want to do when you're doing something that you want to do.
Right. And when you guys are talking about it, please don't say, well, you have to hang out with my friends because I hang out with yours. Or I don't want to hang out with yours because you don't hang out with mine.
The problem is you're projecting your compromise onto her. You cannot force somebody to do something they don't want. It's unreasonable to even expect them to or to want them to. They either want to or they don't. Right. Okay? Now, if that's not good for you, then go do your thing. Accept it or reject it and go away. You've got to live your life and you've got to let other people live their life.
Right.
Stop trying to force somebody to live the life that you want them to live.
But we're also not saying that you just have to accept that she doesn't ever want to be with your friends. If there is a problem...
I totally would. I would just be like, whatever, and then go do my thing.
If there's a problem that can be addressed and fixed so that you both kind of get to do that, then do that. But just...
I mean, at the very most, I would just say, hey, what's your issue with my friends?
Right,
Obviously,
exactly.
You have one. So tell me what it is and maybe we can figure something out. If I was really bothered by that.
Right.
But I don't think I'd be bothered by that.
This could just be circumstances. It could just be, timing. It could be a lot of things. She could not have any problems with your friends.
But actions speak louder than words here.
Right.
And the actions are she's dodging them consistently. She's been dodging these groups, right? I mean, otherwise he wouldn't have brought it up.
Right.
He's noticing a pattern of behavior here. Whether she could easily just blow smoke up his ass and say, oh, no, it's just timing. It's blah, 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 right?
Right.
Yeah.
So the Great Avocado
Comments.
says, start off by saying, hey, can we talk? I've got some things on my mind and would like to talk it out with you. Offer up times to talk. This is so she doesn't feel blindsided and have to talk about it on the spot. Find a time when you're both not distracted by anything and you both have time to have an extended conversation. But yes, it's as simple as that. Open and honest communication is important in any relationship. You need to be okay with starting these conversations, and sometimes they will be uncomfortable. But if you can't even get this kind of communication down, then you're going to have a rough time making this relationship work.
Sure.
And I agree with that a little bit.
Sure.
I agree with the bottom of it, but I think the top is kind of overthinking it a little bit.
It does seem very clinical, doesn't it?
Why?
I've got Friday at 3 p.m. available. Is that good for you, or can we schedule something in November? I've got maybe... Let's check our calendars here, and I'll tell you what, I'll just have my people call your people.
I think that makes it feel very, very forced.
Yeah.
I think you just need to be, hey, girl, what's up with you not hanging out with my friends?
Yeah, girl.
I'm saying that because I don't know her name. Obviously, use her name because he knows her name.
What if her name's girl? What if it's boy?
You're so crazy.
Okay.
All right, that is all the questions we have this week.
Woo-hoo. I can always tell when we're getting close to an hour.
Why? Because you start sweating?
Because it starts to warm up
I
in
haven't
here.
been freezing for all night.
All right, well, you can just hang out in here then the rest of the day. You'll be
I'm
nice
finally warm.
You'll be nice and warm.
So, our Peach in our pit this week
Yeah.
is that I feel like our pit...
Is it never-ending work schedule?
No.
You got
I
an
have
actual
a new
Oh,
one.
wow.
Is that I feel like you kind of got a little taste of my world with the chores and our kids.
That's your pit?
Yeah, because you had to deal with it.
So? I didn't make you feel bad about that.
No.
Because
no,
there's no
you
reason for you
didn't.
to feel bad about that.
No, you didn't make me
This
feel
is a
bad
terrible
about
pit.
it. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll try again. I don't know. I don't know if a pit that pertains to both of us.
Yeah. You don't have to give for both of us. You can, if I have a particular pit to bring up, I'll bring it up.
Okay.
So you can just do one of yours.
All right. Well, my pit this week is that I've not felt good on top of having to work.
You've been a little sicky?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the doctors don't want to give an antibiotic because they're afraid of superbugs.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of crappy.
Right.
And then our peach is that you were amazing today when I dropped the ball.
Wait. Just today?
Well, no, you're amazing every day.
Okay, but why today?
You were amazing today because I got home from work at 6 a.m.
Now, that was yesterday.
Well, yes, yesterday.
Right.
I haven't been to bed yet.
All right.
I got home yesterday from work at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
I did all of the grocery shopping and the running around and all of that stuff.
Uh-huh.
I came home and took care of a few things here. And then I laid down and went to sleep. And I totally dropped the ball on making you dinner and helping you with your project.
Right.
And I woke up like 10 minutes before I'm supposed to go to work.
Yeah.
I didn't make you dinner. I felt horrible about it.
Yeah.
And I called you almost in tears about it.
Uh-huh.
And you made me feel so much better, and you were great. And I
Right.
was just like, no problem.
Yeah, because
It's okay.
it wasn't a big deal. You not making me dinner and not helping me with something I'm fully capable of doing myself is not that big of a deal, baby.
But that's my love language. That's how
Yeah.
I show you I love you, by taking care of you.
Well, I appreciate it, but in circumstances like this where your sleep is on the line, I prefer that you go ahead and get your sleep. So
Well-
that's why I wasn't bothered by it.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
It was good.
Anytime.
And I'm excited that I get to take the kids trick-or-treating.
Yeah, that's going to be...
I get to go into work an hour later, a whole hour later.
I'll tell you one of my peaches. I've been working with Raiden on his special effects makeup. That's something that I was really into when I was a youngster. And now he's sort of taken a knack for it, a liking to it. And he's been working on it. It's been fun kind of teaching him and showing him different tricks and tips.
So he's been practicing. He's been trying to make this like big gash in his arm.
Yeah, like a wound.
Right. So I was asleep on the couch the other day.
Yeah.
Taking a nap. And he comes over to me and he wakes me up real sweaty. He goes, Mommy.
Yeah.
Mommy. Hey. And he had his arm like right down. And so the first thing I see when I open my eyes is his bloodied arm.
Yeah,
and
that wound.
It took me a minute to realize it was just
He was trying to
makeup.
show you his work, and you were thinking...
I was thinking he had done something awful to him.
We got to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Well, that means he's doing a good job, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
All right.
It was great. You would have been proud.
Yeah.
So, all right. You guys, that's all the questions, comments, and everything that we have this week. If you have any questions or comments.
Or hurt feelings.
Please write into happilyneverequal@gmail.com. You know, I would love to hear any of those.
Yeah.
You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. Our handle on Twitter is happynotequal.
Right. And we're also on YouTube.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
All right, husband. You have a good week.
Wife, you behave.